Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be predicting the biggest free agency surprises before your very eyes.
Hike!
Free agency is around the corner, and we're going to be talking about some of the top fantasy names. There aren't a lot of them, to be honest. We may see some guys who get cut, and this list may get a little more interesting. But for who we know will be free agents, we're going to talk about them. And we're also going to give you where we think they're going to go and a buy, sell, or hold based on, from a dynasty perspective, what will we do based on this information, because we want to anticipate where these guys may be going and then make those moves accordingly. So Joe and I are going to be talking about 5 players in total. 3 of them we both are going to talk about. So let's start off with first, probably the hallmark guy you're hearing the most buzz around. That's quarterback Sam Darnold. Obviously he had his best year of his career with the Minnesota Vikings. It looks like recent reports are indicating that he's not going to get tagged. And by the time this episode drops, I'm thinking he probably won't be. But if he did, then skip right through. But what do you think, Joe? Where do you think he's going to go?
Yeah, I've got him going slotted to the Seattle Seahawks. And I know a lot of you might be thinking, they got Geno Smith. Why would they be getting Sam Darnold? Well, I think there's a possibility that Geno Smith just gets cut before the new league year starts here by the Seattle Seahawks, save a little cap space and get a guy like Sam Darnold, similarly to what they did with Geno Smith, honestly. Take a guy and be able to utilize him for a few years here, which compared to they're only going to potentially get one more year out of Geno Smith. Then they're going to be, looking for a quarterback. So I think it makes sense for them to cut him, go ahead and bring in a guy like Sam Darnold, give him a few years to play in Seattle. And from a fantasy standpoint, outside of staying with Minnesota, I think the Seattle Seahawks would be a really intriguing spot for Sam Darnold. Just being able to play with guys like JSN, if they don't trade him, DK Metcalf, and with Clint Kubiak coming over there to man the offense as well. I think it's an interesting spot in terms of buy, sell, hold Sam Darnold. If he would go to the Seattle Seahawks, I would buy him. But if I had him currently, I'd probably just be holding him until I figure out where exactly he's at, and depending on the landing spot, maybe you try to sell him at that point or keep him if you like it.
Yeah, so for me, I have Sam Darnold going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, we don't know how these dominoes are all going to fall. That's right, and this is why the episode exists that we're talking about. I actually thought about the Seahawks too. We just talked about in our most recent episode about how Geno Smith can be subject to a cap casualty, and it could make some sense for Seattle. So I don't think that's out of the question. I very much considered it, and I know the hot landing spot is the Raiders. But I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I almost think low key, I think it might not be a shocker if Aaron Rodgers and Javonte Adams go there, just because they want to win now and kind of stabilize that culture. I wouldn't be surprised possibly if that's something like that happens. But anyways, I think Darnold goes to the Steelers because I just think that Russell Wilson did not work out for them. Justin Fields did not work out for them. This is not a great quarterback class. And I think Darnold, when it came to Kevin O'Connell and that coaching staff, he was finally at a place where he was supported. New York Jets was a dumpster fire. Carolina was a dumpster fire. Then you go to San Francisco, which would have been okay, but you were the backup. And Brock Purdy played the whole time. So I think he's going to want to go somewhere that is going to be a stabilizing place. And what better than the Steelers? Steelers have been, Tomlin hasn't had a losing record. They continue to do well. He doesn't have to do a lot. They've got a strong, stout defense, ground and pound. If he's ever has that, aspirations to be, Super Bowl winning team or whatever, that's what he's going to need. So to me, I don't think the Steelers are going to want to go down the Russell Wilson or Justin Fields route. And if they don't, then where do they go? So to me, I think Darnold could make a lot of sense because I think the Steelers are going to have to be aggressive because they can't get anybody in the draft. Unless they go for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, maybe. I don't know, but I'm leaning towards Darnold.
Yeah, it's just interesting because the Steelers typically don't like spend big money in free agency, especially bringing in a big name quarterback. I tend to think if they do go, I do think it'd be more likely like a older veteran player like an Aaron Rodgers if they go the quarterback route. I'd kind of be surprised if it was Sam Darnold, but I do think it, could make some sense. But from their perspective, I think it's more likely that they just bring Justin Fields back and maybe try to draft somebody in the later rounds. So what are you doing with Sam Darnold? You buying him, holding him, selling him?
Yeah, I think I'm selling him in a super flex league. I think that it was a match made in heaven with him and Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah.
It's a very quarterback friendly system with really good weapons. And I just think that Darnold will start seeing ghosts again. And I just think at the end of the day, I think you'd be better off selling them. Are you enjoying this episode so far? Well, if you are, subscribe to our YouTube channel, smash that like button, and hit the notification bell for upcoming videos. We do videos throughout the year, so you're not going to want to miss what we have in store. But now, heading over to our next player, running back Najee Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're just talking about. Joe, where do you have Najee going?
Yeah, I think he's a good fit for the Los Angeles Chargers. Jim Harbaugh likes to run the ball. They currently have Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. Both are free agents themselves. So I think either going to – I definitely think they could address the running back position in the draft with this loaded draft class. But they have the sixth most cap space among teams. Jim Harbaugh, as I mentioned, likes to run the ball. I could definitely see them bringing in a guy like Najee Harris where – he's a very reliable back in terms of he's played all the games in his career, consistently rushed for over 1,000 yards. And, honestly, the Kamani Vidal, despite the buzz, was also pretty disappointing when he got the opportunities. So I think they bring in a guy like Najee Harris, also address it in the draft. But I think that makes sense. And in terms of Najee from a dynasty perspective, I would probably... I don't know if I'm necessarily like it. I guess I'd be interested in buying him if he does go to the Chargers or depending on the team he goes. But if I had him, I would probably just hold him and wait till he goes to an intriguing team and then maybe try to sell high on him.
Yeah, so for me, I've got Najee Harris going to the Dallas Cowboys. I think that Jerry has to recognize that he has to address the running back position this offseason. He got a lot of flack for not going for Derrick Henry. And although he said things like he didn't fit their system, whatever, you and I both know, he's just saying whatever he wants to say in the media just to move on to the next question. So I think that he has to address that position. He can't be going to Rico Dowdle again. Now, it is a really good running back class. So you could argue that they're gonna maybe take one in the draft, which could very much happen. I mean, that's why it's very hard to predict where Najee Harris is going to go. But, Jerry kind of zigs when others zag, right? I mean, it would make more sense for teams to draft a young buck in the draft. Why would you spend all this money in free agency? And sometimes Jerry just does unorthodox things. So it kind of just fits the mold to me that he missed out last year. Now he's going to course correct and get Najee Harris. I think at the end of the day, I probably would put some feelers out to try to buy him. I think I would. I think that if I could get him for like a second round pick, I could be interested. I wouldn't near touch it first. If that's happened, then just close the conversation down. I mean, you've got a lot of talented running backs, probably at least 4 or 5 that we could name that, you get them right on your rookie deal there. And, it just when it doesn't make any sense. You could even argue in this class that a second rounder might be rich, but amid the late one, I think I would consider it.
Yeah. I mean, you certainly could buy him in the hopes that he does go to an interesting landing spot. Then somebody's going to continue to give him a decent workload as he's been shown that he can handle.
So next player that we're both going to be talking about here is wide receiver Chris Godwin. Now he is the marquee wide receiver free agent because we saw that T. Higgins got the franchise tag, and it looks like or from all reports are saying that Godwin, unless he resigns with the team, which who knows, by the time this episode happens, it could happen. If so, skip to the next guy. But I think that they said he's not going to get tagged because it'd be a 144% increase because he was already tagged before. So, Joe, where do you have Chris Godwin going?
Yeah, I've got him going to the New England Patriots. And that's simply just with the news that T. Higgins went ahead and got the tag, because if not, I think, the Patriots just would have been willing to just empty the bag on T. Higgins. But with him getting the franchise tag, as you mentioned, the next best guy on the market is Chris Godwin. They need to, upgrade the wide receiver room for Drake May. So I think it's logical that they give Chris Godwin a nice payday, pair him up with Drake May there. And, in terms of what I'm doing with Chris Godwin, I think you have to hold him. He's not a guy I'd necessarily be looking to buy, especially if he does go to the Patriots. But coming off of the injury, despite the fact that he had a really good start to the season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think people would be nervous about him coming off of that ankle injury, and I'm just not sure what his value would be. So I feel like if you got him, you probably have to hold him.
So for me, I've got Chris Godwin going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just like in real life, what I try to, tell those who listen on here, it's all about who you know. And at the end of the day, you saw what Chris Godwin was able to do with Liam Cohen as the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now he's the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I suspect, and we talked about this in our most recent episode, that Christian Kirk is going to get cut. They're going to get a cap savings there. And they got to, Liam Cohen, if he's going to be successful in Jacksonville, he's got to fix Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has not lived up to the billing of what he's been paid and for the potential that he was as the number one overall pick. They need to be able to get him right. And to me, you've got Brian Thomas Jr. now. He's got that deep threat. He's a very electric player. Chris Godwin's your security blanket. You need somebody like him. Now, you could argue Evan Ingram kind of does that for Trevor Lawrence, but I also don't know how much Evan Ingram is going to be in their plans. They could even decide to cut him. So I think Chris Godwin has familiarity with the offense. We saw him really excel. I think the Jaguars make a lot of sense if he doesn't end up going back to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I'd sell him. I would sell Chris Godwin because I think his best landing spot is to go back to Tampa Bay. But I don't think that they're going to be I'm not sure that they're going to be able to. He will want, if he does, it's going to be like a Khalil Shakir situation where he told his agent, I want to be a Bill. He's going to be like, I want to be a Buck. And I'll do whatever it takes to get me back there. I just don't know if that's going to happen. I think he may try to get the most amount of money possible, and I don't think the Bucks can keep him.
Yeah, if he wants the most amount of money possible, he's gone. But if he's willing to kind of take the quote-unquote hometown discount and stay with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then it definitely is possible. I agree. I do think that is the best landing spot for him. I struggle with the Jaguars landing spot just because they spent big money on Gabe Davis last year. They had Brian Thomas Jr.
Though. Trent Baalke's no longer there.
No, I understand. But looking at their roster, I think they also like a guy. They got a guy like Parker Washington who kind of showed flashes towards the end of the year. And I think truly the Jaguars want to use Brian Thomas Jr. out of the slot, which that is what unlocked Chris Godwin this year, was his ability to play out of slot. And that was Liam Cohen's doing. So if Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be in the slot, I don't think they're going to bring in, Chris Godwin.
So now you and I are going to deviate a little bit. We've got a few players that I'm talking about, you're talking about. So who are you going to be talking about first, Joe?
Yeah, I'm going to go with running back Aaron Jones. I know there's a good chance that he resigns with the Minnesota Vikings, but if he doesn't, I think there's a possibility that he goes to the Denver Broncos.
Homer.
No, you're going to talk about somebody going to the Bills as well.
So Joe, you're letting the cat out of the bag here.
I didn't say who. I
Oh,
just said a player. But fact of the matter is the Broncos want to upgrade their running back position. yes, they're going to draft one, no doubt. But I do think there's going to be, they have a really young running back room right now. So I think they'd really be benefiting from adding a veteran like Aaron Jones. Uh, and he's got the ability to, you know, catch the ball out of the backfield and run it as well. Would give the Broncos some versatility and a different style of running back that they don't currently have on their roster. So in terms of what I would be doing with Aaron Jones, uh, I'd probably sell him and probably see what I can get for him because maybe there are the people that do believe that he's going to go to the Vikings and you can get something for him. But if he doesn't go back to the Vikings, I'm not so sure how he's going to do as far as the fantasy relevance he'll have.
Yeah, I just don't know what you could really do with him. I think because he's just older, he's probably only got 1 year left in his career, maybe 2 of relevance, but more than likely 1. So that means that he really only benefits a win now team.
Yeah.
I think it's a situation where you have to find the right trading partner and see what you could get for him. But it may just be a hold situation. If you're a rebuilding team, you're really motivated to get rid of him. If you're kind of in the middle of the pack, you're thinking maybe I should keep him, hold him on to the deadline and get better value for him. If you're a win now team, you're glad to have him. So it's kind of a tough situation. I don't know about that move. I know that Sean Payton wants his joker. And it's possible that Aaron Jones could be that joker.
I think they're going to draft a joker. I just think Aaron Jones would provide some depth because I don't think they're happy with any of their backs that they have.
I don't think so either. So why don't we talk about one of your backs, and that's going to be running back Javonte Williams. And here's a pop quiz for you, Joe, as to where I think he's going to go. Do you know who Curtis Modkins is?
Yeah, well, I know he was on the Broncos staff and currently is no longer.
Yes. Do you know what role he had on the Broncos staff?
Was he the tight ends coach?
No, the former running back coach in his rookie year for Javonte Williams. And where does he coach now, Joe? He coaches with the Minnesota Vikings. It's all about who you know. The Vikings, if they don't re-sign Aaron Jones, it's a great opportunity. It's an open backfield. I think Javonte Williams could make a ton of sense reuniting back with that running back coach, going over to Minnesota. It's you're going into a system that you're familiar with, and the Vikings need a running back. In that situation, I'd like to buy him. Now, that's a very appealing landing spot if he were to go to Minnesota. I don't know. I don't know the future, but I think he's an intriguing player. We've talked about him in the past. I just don't know if he's really. But Denver's really done him a lot of favors, to be honest with you, towards the end of his career. I know you think he's kind of fallen off the wagon, so time will tell. But you could get him for dirt cheap. If that were to happen, that'd be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Minnesota would be a good landing spot for him. Not so sure. I see it happen. I get you're following the connections. That's your MO. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, typically it is about who you know, and we see that come to fruition. But I don't know. I'm still on the standpoint. Just sell Javonte. I don't know what he's got, what he's got left to offer you at this point. I think his best fantasy seasons are already behind him.
And just to be clear, because I think people will misconstrue what I'm saying, you're not buying him at all costs. I'm saying you're talking about like a 3rd round pick, maybe. I mean, look what he's going for. He's not going for a lot. If someone's wanting an early second for him, you tell him you pass, right? I mean, this running back class is the best it's been in a very long time. So I would think the negotiating power for these teams trying to trade away a Najee Harris or Javonte, it's going to be pretty tough pickings because that team knows I could go pick a running back in the 2nd round and he could turn out to be pretty good, whether it's a Cam Scapetto or whatever it is. It's like, why do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but I don't. In reality, I don't really think anyone's going to be asking for that much for Javonte. He's been really disappointing outside of his rookie year, and I think most people are just going to be looking to get rid of him, like myself.
So your last guy, Joe, who are you going to be talking about here? You have a homecoming? Were you talking about yourself?
No. So last person I've got is wide receiver Stefon Diggs, and I've got him going to the Baltimore Ravens. I think ultimately the Texans want to try to bring Stefon Diggs back, but we'll see if they're able to do so. They're kind of in a bad cap situation, so not sure if they will be able to work something out with them. But if not, I think the Ravens make a decent amount of sense. They try to add Deontay Johnson to their wide receiver room. I think they want to have somebody else outside of Zay Flowers and the tight end group that they have to make their offense more dynamic. And I think despite coming off of the injury, Stefon Diggs can do that. Being before the injury, I didn't think he was going to be much of a factor with the Texans with Tank Dell there. Man, was I wrong, because he looked good. And honestly, like he really was the number 2 in the offense outside of Nico Collins. So, I think makes sense for a contending team like the Ravens to go ahead and take a flyer on him, probably on a cheaper price because he is battling back from the torn ACL he suffered last year. And, I think in terms of what I would do from a dynasty perspective, obviously, you'd have to be a contending team to do that, but maybe you try to buy low on Stefon Diggs.
Interesting. I thought about talking about Diggs myself. I think Ravens make a lot of sense. You've seen the Ravens time and time again, even going back to Anquan Bolden and Steve Smith. They seem to go for those veteran type receivers. It just is, like you said, it's their MO. So I think the Ravens are a logical landing spot. I could see him reuniting in Dallas with his brother Trayvon also.
I thought about that, but rumor has it they're trying to shop Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah, so true. I know.
If he wasn't going to be, I thought about the family reunion in Dallas would make sense. And also Brandon Cooks is out the door, but then I saw, Diggs also being if he's going to be on the Cowboys. So I kind of look for a different team.
Well, Joe let the cat out of the bag for the last one, unfortunately, for those who are listening. I guess hopefully you don't hate spoilers. So I've got a player going to the Bills, and that's wide receiver Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown, had that clavicle injury, I believe, at the beginning of the year for the Kansas City Chiefs. Wasn't really able to play for almost the year. You have to sort through the rumors and the smoke, what's true and what's not. All I know is the Bills are feeling now, for whatever reason, they could have thought about this, a year ago, but is what it is. But that they need speed, they have a need for speed now, and so they want to have that element in their offense. And rumor has it, Josh Allen has been trying to get Hollywood Brown to come to play for the Bills. I could see it happening. I think that Hollywood Brown's probably going to be looking at an prove-it-year contract. He was not able to play, with the Chiefs, so he wasn't really able to maximize that time there to really get this huge money contract. So he's got to do another prove-it year. So that means it's affordable for the Bills. And if you're Hollywood Brown, you could go back to the Chiefs, but maybe you'd be better off going to the Bills. I mean, Patrick Mahomes did not put as much stats up as he's used to. And if he's eyeing, the possibility of getting a big payday, he's got to find somewhere to go. And whether it's got the Chiefs, the Bills are probably the best spots for him as far as maximizing his value. So again, you have to sort through the rumors. I would say that I'm buying the fact that they are trying to get him. And I think I would buy him, or at least put feelers out there. I would say his value is decently low. This wide receiver class is not the best. It's definitely not compared to what it was the prior year. Mm-hmm. Late second, early third, interesting. Certainly not a first, certainly not an early second. But maybe again, and it's hard to do 1-for-1 trades. You have to look at your roster. You can piece things together, twosies, threesies, kind of put something together to make a package work. I think he's a player that you might be able to go get. Now it's dangerous because if he goes somewhere like he was in Baltimore or even Arizona, not as exciting. So really all depends.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be that excited if he goes to the Bills, quite honestly, either.
No, I know you don't like the everybody eats. I know.
And it doesn't. And if they're adding more speed, it kind of goes against their new philosophy with the run first and Josh Allen not taking those deep shots down the field like he was when they had Stefon Diggs. Then they also, bring back, extend Khalil Shakir as well to the new contract. So, it's interesting. Yeah, if he was on the
Or
Bills,
you
I
think
would
it's
not be
smoke?
excited about that.
Do you think it's smoke, or do you think it's a real possibility that he'll go there?
I don't know if it's smoke. I mean, I haven't seen the rumors. I mean, you're a Bills fan. I kind of trust that you're having those rumors, and it wouldn't surprise me. I think the Bills are looking to add somebody, and obviously Amari Cooper didn't really work out, so how they would brown it, it could make sense just from a fantasy perspective. I wouldn't be that excited about it, but man, if they were looking to add speed, they just let Xavier Worthy go right to the Chiefs.
That's what I was referring to. Yes, I know. Thank you, appreciate
Yeah,
that.
no worries.
Well, that does it for this episode. We talked about some guys that we're predicting their landing spots and some surprises that what could happen here in the next few days. We're trying to get ahead of it, and if we're right, I don't know. I guess we give each other a pat on the back. I don't know, or we'll get a pizza party. I don't know, but anywho, you're gonna want to look at your roster. Think about some guys who are free agents and what you're gonna do with them. Are you gonna buy, sell, hold? These are some conversations you could be having with your leagues. With Dynasty, hey, you could always trade. So reach out, see what's up, and maybe you can get a deal done. I'll tell you what, though, Joe, it's going to be an exciting few days. I know you and I both always enjoy the offseason and the free agency frenzy and where these guys are going to go.
Oh, yeah. We're getting closer to the new league here, so that just means we'll see more news trickling in here. We got the franchise deadline coming up here, too, so it's an exciting time right now.
It really is. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.